For 15 years, DRS was the one tool Formula One had to help drivers overtake. It was simple. A flap on the rear wing opened, you got less drag, and you either made the pass or you didn't. The FIA couldn't really adjust how effective it was from one race to the next. The mechanism was baked into the car. That system is gone now. And what replaced it for 2006 is something Formula One has never had before. The FIA just gave itself the ability to make overtaking easier or harder at every single Grand Prix, adjustable like a difficulty slider in a video game. They can change the energy, the zones, and the power thresholds. And teams only get 4 weeks' notice before it takes effect. So what does this actually mean for the racing? And should we be worried that the quality of Formula One is now in the hands of a committee in Geneva? Let's start with what the new system actually is, because the details matter more than the headlines. And to understand why this is such a big deal, you need to appreciate just how simple the old system was. DRS arrived in 2011 as a stopgap. Formula One had a dirty air problem. Cars following closely lost downforce, overheated their tires, and could not get close enough to pass. So the FIA introduced a movable rear wing flap. Get within 1 second of the car ahead in a detection zone, and you could press a button on the next straight to open the flap, reduce drag, and gain a speed advantage. Simple, mechanical, binary. It was meant to be temporary. It lasted 15 seasons. Over those 15 years, the FIA's main adjustment tools were limited. They could change the length of DRS zones, they could move detection points, they could add or remove zones at specific circuits. The wing gap grew from 50 mm to 65 mm in 2014 and then to 85 mm in 2019, but those were season-wide decisions made months in advance. The underlying system never changed. Push button, flap opens, drag reduced. That is all it ever was. Overtake Mode replaces that with a completely different philosophy. Instead of opening a physical flap on the rear wing to cut aerodynamic drag, the new system gives a pursuing driver an extra 0.5 megajoules of electrical energy. That is a meaningful chunk of power. To activate it, a driver needs to be within 1 second of the car ahead at a single detection point on the circuit, usually located near the final corner. This is where DRS and Overtake Mode stop being comparable. Unlike DRS, where the flap opened and closed and that was the full extent of driver input, Overtake Mode hands the driver a pool of energy and lets them decide how to spend it. They can dump all of it into one straight for an aggressive lunge into a braking zone, or they can spread it across multiple acceleration zones throughout the following lap. They can use it out of slow corners where traction matters. They can save it for the last 5 laps when their tires are gone. 2 drivers in identical cars with identical gaps could deploy it in completely different ways depending on their tires, their fuel load, and their racecraft. That kind of strategic deployment choice has never existed in Formula One before. The physics behind the speed advantage are worth understanding. In normal boost mode, the electric motor delivers its full 350 kilowatts up to about 290 kilometers per h, then gradually drops to zero output at 345 kilometers per h. In override mode, which is the Overtake Mode power curve, that full 350 kilowatts holds all the way up to 337 kilometers per h, before tapering to zero at roughly 355 kilometers per h. What that means in practice is that at 345 kilometers per h, on a long straight, the car in front has zero electrical power. The car behind, with Overtake Mode active, still has approximately 200 kilowatts pushing it forward. That is roughly 270 horsepower of advantage at exactly the speeds where overtakes happen, on circuits like Bahrain, Jeddah, and Monza. The defending driver cannot activate Overtake Mode, which preserves the asymmetric advantage that made DRS work for as long as it did. So far, this sounds like a reasonable evolution. Replace a mechanical flap with a smarter, more strategic electrical system. Give drivers more agency over how they use the advantage. Sounds good on paper. So far, none of this is particularly alarming. But here is where the 2026 regulations go somewhere Formula One has never been. Nikolas Tombazis, the FIA's single-seater director, confirmed across multiple interviews in January and February 2026 that the FIA has, in his words, quite a lot of flexibility to adjust Overtake Mode throughout the season. He said it directly during Bahrain pre-season testing on February 27th. If we feel it is too weak, then we can strengthen it. And if we feel it is too powerful, we can also reduce it if necessary. Read that again. The FIA's top technical official just told us on the record that overtaking in Formula One is now a tunable parameter. And it is not just the energy amount. The regulations give the FIA control over the 0.5 megajoule quantum itself, which can go up or down per circuit. The detection gap, which is currently set at 1 second, is explicitly not locked. The detection point positions and activation line locations are adjustable. The maximum power output curves for both standard and override modes can be altered. And the superclipping harvesting limit, currently capped at 250 kilowatts, could be raised all the way to 350 kilowatts if the FIA decides energy management is too punishing. Tombazis explained the mechanism further at the Autosport Business Exchange in London. These parameters, how you set up the overtake zones and so on, are parameters that you can adjust. We do, of course, need to give teams advance notice. We don't change them on Friday at the racetrack, but there are things we can simulate, and I think we'll be okay. They knew they could not predict how all of these variables would interact across 24 different circuits with 11 different cars. The flexibility was always the plan. The question is whether a plan that requires constant recalibration to deliver good racing is actually a good plan. Tombazis has expressed confidence that the FIA has done 90% of the work, but Formula One has always been a sport where the margins are in the final 10%. And if that remaining 10% requires the FIA to act as a race-by-race balancing authority, deciding how much overtaking is the right amount of overtaking, then we are somewhere Formula One has never been before. The first real data arrives at Melbourne, but the 4-week notice requirement means the earliest meaningful overtake mode adjustment cannot take effect until around race 4 or 5. That leaves the opening races of the 22-6 era as something closer to a live experiment than a finished product. So, what should you actually watch for in the opening rounds? If Melbourne produces fewer than 10 on-track overtakes outside of pit stop windows, expect the FIA to increase the energy quantum for the European rounds. If Jeddah, which is an energy-poor street circuit with very long straights, produces processional racing, that will confirm the worst fears about the power unit balance. And if Bahrain, which should be the friendliest circuit for the new regulations, given its heavy braking zones and harvesting opportunities, still fails to deliver competitive wheel-to-wheel action, then the problem runs deeper than any parameter adjustment can fix. The FIA has also left itself a more dramatic option. If energy management proves too punishing across the board, the regulations allow raising the superclipping harvesting limit from 250 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts, while simultaneously reducing race electrical power to 250 kilowatts. Autosport reported on this as a potential plan B for 22.6, a more aggressive recalibration that would reshape the entire power delivery philosophy. If that option gets exercised mid-season, it would be an admission that the original 50/50ths power split was miscalibrated from the start. If the racing is good out of the box, none of this matters. The FIA's built-in flexibility becomes an insurance policy nobody cashes in, and we all move on. But if the racing is processional, that flexibility becomes the most important tool the sport has. And if constant adjustments become the norm season after season, then Formula One has quietly accepted something it spent decades resisting: that the quality of its racing depends not on the brilliance of engineers and the courage of drivers, but on someone in Geneva turning a dial. The story here is not whether overtake mode works at Melbourne. It is whether Formula One has created a system that needs a bureaucracy to make it exciting.